you can't just bring anybody around my son. You know what I mean? And sometimes people don't want that. They're not ready for that. Because in reality, it is right. Like if I'm going to date you, like it's a package deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, in the past, like I've gotten hurt where someone was here for a while and then they left, but they were around him. He got used to him. So he's hurt too. And so it's dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to meet someone, but also making sure that they're the right fit for me and for my son.
Right.
And to make sure like they're in for like the long haul. You know what I mean? There was a time, right, when my son had like a homework assignment, right? And he got like a really bad grade on it. Got like an F on it. And I was like, bro, like, what are you, like, how you get an F? He's like, there's stuff that wasn't answered. I was like, dude, like, what are you doing? And he like started to tear up.
Wow.
I was like, oh, like, what's up? He was like, because I didn't want to ask for help. And I was like, why? He's like, because look at you. He's like, I want to be, shoot.
It's good.
He's like, yo, I want to be tough like you.
Hey y'all, welcome to Inside Out Podcast Season 2. I'm your host, Yamoria Wright. The intention of this podcast is to enrich your life with behind the scenes interviews and conversations from thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and creators about how they live their lives from the inside out. Enjoy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Inside Out Podcast. This is a special Father's Day episode, and I am so overjoyed that I have my friend Bernard White here remotely. We are doing this, and we are going to talk all things, of course, career, acting, fitness, fatherhood, and the importance of Black fathers in our lives and in our children's lives, and also just appreciation for those fathers who are out there doing their thing. But if y'all don't know who Bernard is, well, before I even do that, hold up. Make sure you subscribe to Inside Out Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or Audible, make sure you give it a thumbs up, give it the stars, comment, all the things. Let's keep this conversation going, especially this conversation, which is just so, so important. And we want to make sure that we continue it even beyond just this episode. All right. So if you don't know who Bernard is, you're about to find out. Bernard White is a captain in the United States Army and grew up in South Carolina. He attended Ball State University and graduated with a degree in health science. While he wanted to pursue acting in college, the expectation in his family to go to college and get a job was strong. Nonetheless, he still participated in plays and student films for fun because of his love for the craft. The word acting can sound quite industrialized, but in reality, training and classes often emphasize not acting, but simply being. Despite the term, Bernard sees it less as acting and more like existing in an alternate universe. For fans of Marvel or Dragon Ball Z, this concept might resonate. Whatever role he takes on becomes his self in that alternate universe. The most rewarding part of this craft for him is bringing someone else's story to life, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It feels like playing pretend as a child, but with the added maturity and skill of an adult. During his time in the military, he's been in the military for 15 years, he has learned about tenacity, discipline, hard work, and self-motivation. He has a saying that aligns with both his military career and his passion for acting. Let the scars from your battles in the war to accomplish your dreams be a reminder that anything worth having is worth fighting for. What up, Bernard?
What up? How's it going?
Great. I'm doing well on this beautiful Monday afternoon. And I'm so happy that you're joining me. You were a part of season 1 of Inside Out Podcast. You are my first returning guest from the previous season that came.
I feel honored. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay.
Cool. So it's really great to have you back. And I remember the conversation that we had, even, that was now 4 years. No, I think we did 2021. So 3 years ago. Yeah. It was like March 2021. But that conversation was so necessary then. And we spoke a lot about, you know, your journey. And then you joined with, you remember the Love Thyself Summit, which was the Love My Roomie summit that dealt with the topics in Love My Roomie. Fun fact, y'all, Bernard is one of the stars of Love My Roomie. He appears towards the end of the season arc and was such a pleasure to work with. So yeah, you know, your transparency, both in conversation and just online, I will say, like, you're very consistent with the way you show up, right? And the things that you talk about and what you care about. So let us know a little bit more. I know your bio does, you know, dive into or touches upon, you know, how you came into acting, but a little bit more about where you are now with acting. How has it evolved for you over the course of just like the past 4 years since the top of the pandemic into, you know, mid 2024?
Man, you know what's funny is I feel like I got more work when I was less deep into my skill. It's a weird thing. So before, it was always kind of difficult for me to be emotional or show emotion. And I feel like I've tapped into like a whole new level of that now. It was like the missing piece, I guess, like for all of my assets as far as an actor. But, you know, after the strike, everything was pushed back. All the films were pushed back. The shows were pushed back. And, you know, I live in Miami now, so it's not as frugal as like New York and New Jersey. So I do commercials every now and then. Like I was in the Super Bowl, the past two Super Bowls.
Yes, so, I know that.
So that was cool. But, you know, I really want to get into like films and series and stuff. So that, you know, it's been kind of slow for that. So.
Well, listen, I've had on Saturday, I had 3 in-person interviews, and the through line for each of those 3 interviews is, you know, basically ask and you shall receive. So y'all, Bernard is out here ready to work. Okay. So, you know, he's got a great smile. He's got great energy. He's very professional and dedicated to the craft, speaking from personal experience. So, you know, hire Bernard and fly him out to your set.
I'm waiting on you to write season.
You waiting on me? You know, you gonna keep waiting. No, no, that's not entirely true. I do. It's just I've been really focused on producing the last few years. Producing is kind of like done this to me. But I do have some other projects that I'm working on. So, you know, maybe, you know, you'll hear from me soon. I have some stuff that's really important to me, to some stories that are really important to me and for me to tell. And they're starting to talk to me, which is why I know I have to like, you know, hunker down and get to the writing. So, but I would love to, you know, dive into fatherhood. What was that moment like? Now, here's something we haven't talked about. When you found out you were going to be a father, and you're young still. So you was younger. And what kind of things went through your mind in terms of preparedness, in terms of fears, joys, anything?
Well, to be, you know, always transparent and to be 100% honest, I was angry because I wasn't with the woman at the time. We had a lot of beef, but she's a great mother. Like, we co-parent very well. She's an awesome mom. Let me go ahead and make sure I say that and put that out there. This is nothing negative. This is literally just the story of how it came about. So obviously, to make a long story short, I was preparing myself, but I literally had no idea what to do. I remember after he was born, I had got fired from my job for going to a friend's funeral. And it, I remember my boss literally said, if you leave to go to this funeral, I'm going to fire you. I think my son was like 4 months old. So I used to have like a really big shoe collection, sold all of my high-end shoes, sold everything in the car. I had like a Grand Prix with like 22s and like in-dash and stuff. Like, sold my rims, sold my in-dash, sold everything. Man, it was a struggle at first. It was a hard struggle. And more so because, like, you know, I just became like an officer in the military. So I'm thinking like, oh man, like, I'll get a higher paying job easily. Like, I'm an officer in the United States Army. It's like, no, no, absolutely not. I mean, I struggled for a while. I ended up getting a job delivering water.
Wow.
And that was probably like the most humbling job I've ever had. It was being called the water boy. It was humbling, but you know,
delivering water to people's homes.
people like basically like rich people's homes or businesses. Yeah. And it was like 6 days. It was like 6 in the morning till like 7 at night every day.
Wow. And how long were you doing that?
Almost 2 years.
Dang.
Yeah, it was. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, it was rough. It was very, very humbling, and it was a struggle. Like my family didn't have money, so I couldn't ask them for help, So for a little bit, like kind of felt like a failure, just because. I mean, when we were kids, our goal is always to, make money and live happy, and but because my son lived with me, his mother had some complications, so like he lived with me at a very young age, so that was super difficult. I had like a 1-bedroom apartment. Yeah, it was.
What were some of so I didn't know that your son lived with you in his infant stages, right? Like he was just with you. And what were what have been some of the tropes or stereotypes about Black fatherhood that you've had to address? Because there's always the assumption that the woman is on her own, that and even as a woman, and there's truth to it, but it's obviously clearly faulty, right? There's examples like yourself where it's faulty, but but it's still, there's truth to this, in that they say, it always falls on the woman, in the sense that, even though there's bitterness underneath there, I think at its best form, what that statement is saying, that you are carrying the baby. If you're not around, the judgment goes to you, but the judgment goes to the father too. I mean, the stereotypes about Black men and fatherhood are expansive, but the realities are not what those stereotypes are. I happen to know a ton of Black fathers, whether they are with the mother or not, who love their children and are active in their children's lives and are passionate about their children's lives. In my personal experience, that is what I have seen personally a lot more. Though I will say, if I were to only pay attention to this conversations in the media and social media, I might start to believe differently, even though that's not my actual lived experience. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So what are some of those challenges that you might have had with regards to being a single father when it comes to, what people think of single fathers?
I think like it's already assumed, right, that my son isn't with me a lot. And then when people find out that he's actually with me a lot, it's a shocker to people, right? One, being Black, right? What's the stereotype? This Black man's never there, right? He's like, oh, he just pays child support, he's never around, But for me, like I made it a point, because my pops wasn't really around. Like I made it a point to be in his life more than my pops was. Period. Even like just dating in military period. Like when oh, you have a son? Like, oh, okay. Oh, so he's with his mom? Like, no, he lives with me. And they're like, the word full-time dad is like an unknown word, apparently. But yeah, man, I take pride in it. Yeah. I take huge pride in it.
Yeah. What are some in today's society? What are some challenges that you have when it comes to raising your son in this world today that you've had to, just confront face to face?
Man, the big one is the internet. That's a big one. Like the virtual reality, what's it called? The Oculus.
VR, the Oculus.
That's been a big one. And the main thing is because you get pedophiles on there. You get a bunch of creeps on there. Your kid goes online. Like I had an issue with my son. And the thing is, kids are innocent, right? It's like, that's one thing I had to realize. Like as a kid, right, you don't know hate, right? You don't know anger. All you know is I just want everybody to be my friend. And so that's why these pedophiles prey on these kids, because they prey on their innocence. Yeah. And so they get on these little toys and they get random people, like random friend requests or whatever, and they're talking to them on there and saying all these things. And as a kid, it's like, oh, he's just a new friend, And I found out someone was trying to talk to him on there, and instead of me like yelling and scolding him, I had to kind of like bring it down, like teach him, like everybody's not your friend. But that's the thing, right? It's a new day and age that sucks, because when we were kids, we can go outside and play all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be fine. right? Your mama would kick you out the house if you was in the house.
Mm-hmm. And you were just
Right.
like, you knew to avoid strangers and random vans, but just sitting on the internet thinking that someone's your friend or someone pretending to be another kid.
Mm-hmm. But it's both, because like I think kids are at risk more now today than we were when we were kids. Like
Right.
it always has happened, right? But nowadays it's at a higher level. It's like I can't have them online, and I can't let them go outside and play by himself. So it's a new challenge,
Yeah.
I think another one is relationships. That's one, because being a full-time father it can't just bring anybody around my son. You know what I mean? And sometimes people don't want that. They're not ready for that. Because in reality, it is right. Like if I'm going to date you, like it's a package deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And in the past, like I've gotten hurt where someone was here for a while and then they left, but they were around him. He got used to him, so he's hurt too. And so it's dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to meet someone, but also making sure that they're the right fit for me and for my son.
Right.
And to make sure like they're in for like the long haul. You know what I
mean? Yeah. Do you think that the lesson, and not to say that you didn't do that time around, but is the lesson here then an advice to the women who's trying to date single fathers too, right? That the process is, I have to be very sure about you before you meet my child. Because once they meet you, there's going to be certain attachments and conversations that need to be had, depending on how young the children are, or the child is, and even the relationship with the mom. There's just so many other things that go into that. But what then is your advice to men in terms of lessons you've learned, how they should approach dating as single fathers?
Honestly, it's a catch-22. I would say, man, look, your kid is more important than anything, right? They are the most important. The one thing I would say you got to be sure of is if the person is in for the long haul. Because I'm going to tell you what you don't want: seeing your kid cry over somebody and their feelings be hurt, and then they blame themselves. Because I personally have had to deal with it. And I tell you, there's no pain that's like that, because you feel responsible. Definitely dot the I's and cross the T's, And it's no shade to someone who doesn't want to be around someone with a kid. Like, I completely understand. Like, you have to care for two people. Like, you're not the center of his attention. You come second. Like, I 100% understand. But if you with it, you got to be all in.
Right.
And as far as women like who are willing to date men with kids, please just be in it. If you're going to be in it, be in it. Because playing with a kid's heart, that's scumbagish.
How do you discern whether a woman is really there for you, really there for the family unit? Really, they have to be ready to have a family, to be really committed to you, right? And how do you practice discernment?
It's a gamble. Like you date them, right, for a while to see, if they're really on this path with you. Obviously, you don't bring them around your kids, for sure, right? But at the end of the day, you can date someone for a year, right, and they never see your kid. But then when you bring them around the kid, it could change.
Yeah.
Right. So it's tough. It's a gamble. But that's where the communication and conversations come in.
Are you at the place where you prefer women with children?
Honestly, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Obviously, like, I have one, so it's like I'd be a huge hypocrite.
Yeah. Well, I just know some people, for this very reason, some people prefer dating someone with children because they get it. And they're like, I don't have children, so I can't speak from experience, but I've been told there's just a couple more conversations don't need to happen because we get it. Like, we all parents here.
So it depends. Like, if I so I want to have another one, right? At some point. So most of the time that I've seen, some women who already have kids and are single, they don't want anymore, which again, understandable. So for me, like I said, it doesn't matter either way, but it's more likely to be with someone who doesn't as far as wanting another kid. So.
Yeah, I get that. I want to share a quote you had posted on your Instagram. How long ago this? This is May 16th, almost a month ago. It was a very sweet post. This is a long quote, and I'm going to read all of it. And I want you to kind of unpack some of this. So you said, as some of you know, I've been going through a lot lately. My heart, soul, and mind have been in a blender for the past couple of months. And unknowingly, I've been short and snippy with my son because of it. I caught myself about a week ago and broke down. If anything, my son is hurting too. And instead of being more caring and loving, I was taking things out on him. I felt terrible and I felt like a piece of shit for taking out my hurt on him. And he's the most innocent. So I sat him down and apologized to him and told him how sorry I was and that daddy is just going through a rough time. All he did was smile, give me a big hug and said, I love you. It's okay, daddy. Will playing video games make you feel better? I just laughed and started crying. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that moment and those moments in fatherhood?
So, like I mentioned before about the girl I was dating and leaving. So part of it stemmed from that. Mm-hmm. Just the way things transpired negatively. It was a lot of hurt that I had to deal with from it. And so, as a father, right, we're taught to be strong and be tough. So what I was doing was I was bearing those emotions and holding them in when I was around them. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't notice at first was that I would be like real short and snappy with them. But it wasn't because of him. It was because of the hurt, and then stuff from like family issues and stuff from the job. It was just one thing after another, like 5 or 6 things, just boom, 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 boom. And I just really felt weighed down. And I had thought about something my mom had said to me before when I was young. She was like, you do what I say, not as I do. Mm-hmm. And it kind of like opened a light bulb, right? Because when we were young, right, our parents were never emotional or open with us. They were literally, you do what I tell you to do, and that's it.
Yep.
And we grow up not knowing how to properly love our kids, because I'm not saying our parents didn't love us, but we have to show it differently. And so, I'm always trying to be this tough guy for my son, make it feel like, his dad's a superhero or whatever. But sometimes being vulnerable is being stronger than the superhero. Mm-hmm. And, I think my son actually appreciates the vulnerability. He's like, oh, like, wow, my dad cries too, and it's just, honestly, it's just being honest with him. Like, I treat my son like an adult, and I just feel like it's helped my relationship with him. Because what I don't want, right, I don't want my son to be spiteful towards me.
Yeah.
For no reason, right? When he hasn't done anything, right? All he's done is try to love people, and it sucks. I mean, like, I still go through issues, even still today, and it's tough because, like, I don't have family here. It's just me and Lil Man. So, and you know how I am. I'm a person who doesn't like reach out for help. So I try to fix it on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a rough one.
What are some ways? Are there some ways that being a father, and how old is your son? He's like 12. Is he like 12?
He's 12. Oh, yeah, you right on the money.
Okay. So how, maybe my brain remembers like when he was younger and how long ago it's been since I've seen you, and I was just able to put it two and two together.
That was quick too.
That was quick. I'm good. Maybe did you post his birthday? Did I like subconsciously see that? Or am I just
I think you just knew it because I didn't post his birthday or anything.
Look at, that's how the Holy Spirit works. So at 12, preteen, Lord, are there any ways that you have been healed from any wounds you had from your father through being his father? Or more understanding of your dad?
I think partially is the being there factor, right? Well, let me go back a second. So there was a time, right, when my son had like a homework assignment, right, and he got like a really bad grade on it. got like an F on it. And I was like, bro, like, what are you, like, how you get an F? He's like, there's stuff that wasn't answered. I was like, dude, like, what are you doing? And he like started to tear up. I was like, oh, like, what's up? He was like, cause I didn't want to ask for help. And I was like, why? He's like, cause look at you.
Dang.
He's like, I want to be, shoot.
It's good. Safe space.
He's like, yo, I want to be tough like you. He was like, you don't ask for help for anything. You do all these things. He's like, I want to be just like you. And so that was it was a goal point, right? Because like my pops wasn't around. And so I had told myself from the minute my son was born that I would make sure that he knows I'm here for him. And so the fact that he wanted to be like me was like oh man, you did it. You know? But at the same time, it's like as men, we need help too.
Yeah.
Right? We're so busy trying to be tough, and like I couldn't even be mad at him. You know? So I have to teach him that everyone needs help, and even myself. Like I have to maybe start to get help myself.
Yeah.
You know? So it was like a win moment and like a learning moment at the same time.
And that's why that moment that, you know, I just spoke about from your Instagram that you shared is so important for him to know that like, no, yeah, daddy hurts too. I also have things I'm going through too. And not because Lord knows I have on the flip side dated men who have daddy issues. They always talk about women, but men be having daddy issues too. We all got parents, okay?
Yeah.
and the way that I think it manifests with a lot of men, and I'll say specifically in the Black home, I think the way it manifests a lot of times, of course, yes, not showing vulnerability, not knowing how to even put language to emotions, not having the language, and also kind of really a hurt that looks very calloused and bitter towards their father for not being there. Or not being, you know, when I had a game, he didn't go, or he went and, you know, he was really hard on me after the game because I wasn't playing well. And he didn't care that, you know, I twisted my ankle. It was like, get over it, be strong, like those things. And like the way that it shows up in grown men, it's like you see the wounded boy still when that's not healed. So then my question to you is how, you know, as an evolved parent of the 21st century, how are you creating a space, whether it is through therapy or is it through fitness, whatever, for you and your son to connect deeper?
To be honest, I had to forgive my dad first.
Oh.
And I still struggle with it, you know. That's the biggest one because it could be a string of a whole bloodline. Like if his dad didn't know how to do it, and his dad won't know how to do it, you know. So I try to look at it like that. Like, I mean, is it really his fault? Like, was his dad loving to him? I don't know. But I'm grateful for the fact that I'm able to realize that to try to stop it, you know. And also therapy. Therapy is a big help. I was very against therapy. I'm prideful, right? I do it all myself. But man, I would honestly say therapy has kept me from going off the ledge. Definitely. And it allows me to be fully engaged with my son, you know, without the spiteness of fatherhood or not having a father before it coming out in little instances.
Right. That's beautiful. The importance of therapy, the importance of forgiveness in order for you to be able to show up as that father so that you're not carrying the wounds, you know, whether they are things that you're aware of or they're epigenetic, like you said, passed down through generations, things that your dad couldn't even put words to, you know, maybe that things that your dad's dad couldn't put words to. We know how much, you know, how ostracized and embarrassed and emasculated Black men have been over the centuries, and how that plays out in our family dynamics doesn't, it doesn't make excuses for bad behavior, but there is a huge empathy, especially because our parents' generation didn't even have the language, and like therapy to that generation is like, the majority of them, and I throw out majority, generally, but like a great number of them, therapy, why, like, go pray about it, get over it, push through it. My mama went through didn't have therapy and she turned out fine, all those kinds of things. Yeah. We talked about, so we're going to segue a little bit more into your takeaways. We are halfway through the year, Bernard.
Which is crazy. This year went by so fast.
So fast. But let me tell you, the last 72 hours have been very long for me. Like, I'm a very busy person. We know that.
But
I kid you not, right? But I kid you not, like, it felt like when I was like Yamori, a little girl long, but I think also I've leaned a little bit more into rest this year. I mean, this portion of the year, because of how busy I was at the top of the year. So what are some best practices that you have for Bernard to be well? So we obviously know therapy is one.
Man, honestly, you know what? I've gotten a lot closer to God this year.
Okay.
Man, it's an interesting thing. I'll go back to like the relationship that I was recently in. There's a saying like, don't ask God for a sign and then not like the sign he gives you. So I was like the one that was like, I asked for a sign. He'll give me a sign. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? That might not be a sign. And I kid you not. I literally prayed and was like, God, give me a sign on Instagram. I was that specific.
Wow.
And I got a sign off Instagram. And I was like, all right. Okay. Got you. And, going through all the things I was going through, like, if you stray off the path, right, God's going to keep doing things until you come back on the path he wants you on. And if you keep being hard-headed, he's going to put you to a point where you got nowhere else to go but to him. And that is what happened to me. Like, I literally had nowhere else to go but him. Like, started going back to church. Like, we go to church every Sunday. I would say that's probably the biggest thing, man. It's just being prayerful and working back on a relationship with God.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, my boy Desmond, he lives out here with his family. He's helped me a lot with my walk with Christ, and he knows everything that's been going on with me. And he'll send me Bible verses. Like, he's really, really looked out for me through all of it. So I'll definitely say one is God, like, for sure. And I mean, 2 years circle, people you're hanging around. Energy's passed. Yep. So you got to really check who you're around and what kind of energy they give off, because that can only make it worse for you.
Yeah.
Your circle is a big one. Mm-hmm. Even if there's people that you don't live with, because energy transfers through the phone too.
Talk about it. I had a so I wish you could have been at Soul Campus, but in time. We had a men's panel that was moderated by my friend BP Edwards. And Jeremiah was on the panel. He came out. Jeremiah was there.
Okay,
Jeremiah was there. And so Soul Campus was a merger of my business partner Tamika, of her Creative Con event, which is for the literary / writer world, screenwriter world, and then Love Thyself Summit. So it was mental health and wellness was at the center for creatives. And the brothers were talking about community and the importance of being able to be vulnerable amongst one another. And so when you just said that really touched my soul, that your friend is not just like being like, a proverbial or literal shoulder to cry on, but he's also sending you scriptures to strengthen you and strengthen your walk, and therefore strengthen your spirit. And that is that's the brotherhood that I hope so many men can come across. That's real. Wow.
Yeah, he's the only person that's done that. So.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen, Listen, we only need a few. We don't, growing up, especially actors, we want everybody to be a part of our team. But it's like, no, you got your associates and your people, but the people who are your brothers and your sisters and really ride with you, you need quality. You don't need a bunch. You just need some real
Facts.
ones.
Absolutely.
Some real ones. So I'm so happy that you have that community, that you have that friendship. In terms of this year, and I want to tap into, are there blessings on the other side of this trial? And they could be spiritual, they could be literal, that you feel like have started to flow in, or that you can at least see again now that you are no longer surrounded by, a relationship or just people who are not in alignment with your best self?
To be honest, I know there is a purpose, right? I know that God is everything for a reason, but I don't know what it is yet. I haven't got to the point where it's like, okay, God, I understand why. I'm still in the I don't know why phase. I'm trying to have faith, obviously, but it's still in the I don't know why. Because in reality, it's like, I did everything right. Like, I'm trying not to be a bad person, right? I'm trying to raise a son. Why am I even going through this? There's people that do way worse than me. And this is the selfish part, right? It's because you're like, why me? And you have to fight like being angry with God. Okay, God, well, is this karma? A God-fearing person doesn't believe in karma, right? We believe in grace. We don't believe in karma. It's grace. But it's like, so why
you said, but what is
like,
what I do?
I was like, I wish I could send God a text message like
kid in the playground.
Like, yo, like, what? Like the recent one. So I have to have a surgery next month on my shoulder. I tore my labrum in my shoulder, so I have to have surgery next month. And that was like, God, come on, man, give me a break. Give me a break, God. Please give me a break. And I try to look at it as like, well, maybe he's telling me to sit down somewhere.
Yeah.
And I wasn't listening before. You know what I mean? Like I said, he if you don't listen, he gonna pat you on your head too. And this injury was another pat on my head. Like, I think, like, boy, sit down.
Yeah.
So, no, I have not reached the blessing yet.
But you know what? That's not to be cliche, but that is a blessing. Like, you're so present, and our trials are important. Like, this, right? Like, we build, right? That you're being broken down to be built up again, to be rebuilt into a new version of yourself. And so it is absolutely fine that you haven't found it yet or haven't discovered it yet. Last year, after the bad accident I had at the top of 2023, I spent the entire year pretty much up until September. And I would probably even venture to say really until October. Yeah, until my birthday. So 10 months of trying to, like, this sounds so funny to say, but I was kind of like trying to impress God, like trying to prove that my life was worth sparing, though it had already been spared. Do you know what I mean? And so when the things that I was doing were not feeling fulfilling, sometimes they would feel really fulfilling and really big and really like, this is why I'm here. And then other times I would feel lonely and confused, and I had just moved to LA and I didn't really have friends here, and even my friends had friends in their own place. So I didn't have my thing, right?
Gotcha.
And so, but it was in that isolation that I did realize that God was drawing me to come closer to him. And it was in that isolation that I realized the key was just to be. And I actually, the first episode of this season, I talk about the accident. I talk about the fact that I realized that just being was enough. And that meant being present. And that meant being in fellowship with my loved ones and the people that do care and that really do rock with me. And that meant being present with God, right? And that was enough. And that had to be enough because chasing something bigger was driving me bananas. So you know, the purpose that I found, and hopefully some of that helps you, was just like, this is it. Like right here, this has got to be enough, because this is where my life is at. This tomorrow's not promised. I'm blessed to breathe. I'm blessed, you know, I have all these things in front of me and with me. This is the reason. And I'm gonna, you know, yes, I'll get to a bigger purpose and something greater, but right now, this is what I'm working with, you know?
It's funny you say that, because, you know, obviously you and anyone else who knows me knows that fitness was always like my therapy, right? And I won't say it was like a God for me, but it was like you think I'd say this. It was like a place where, all right, I know I'm going to the gym. I know I can let everything out here. And I feel like, obviously with this injury, I can't do that. Right? I can't go to the gym. I can't lift like how I did before. Because then it was like, I go to the gym and do that, and then my ego was boosted, right? Because I get bigger or stronger or whatever. So then it's like, all right, I'm good now. So I think this happened because God wants me to stop using the gym as that and use him as that.
You sound like you ready, Minister Bernard.
But listen, because my ego as far as my physique has always been a big thing for me. And so now he's literally just chipping away. He's like, I'm taking this from you. Now you're about to get smaller because you're going to be out of commission for about 4 months. So get over that. Ain't nothing you can do about it. You know, so it's just like, it's like a force in the right lane.
Yeah.
You know, because I was angry lifting. I know I was like, all right, I'm about to go in here. I'm about to put on 20 pounds, make whoever feel like they never should have did me. You know what I mean? Just doing all this selfish minded things. And God was like, nah, bro, I'm gonna let it stop.
Wow. That I'm sure there are people who aren't as mindful with like why or like what was motivating anything in the gym. And what I hear is what you're saying is like your heart posture was even off in the gym.
Yep.
And so like guys like, oh, okay, really? And now we're dealing with your heart. Like, let's get the heart in a different place.
Yeah.
Let's get the motivation in a different place. That's a lot, but that's also like, I know that's going to bless people because, you know, it's so real, but it's also something that I don't know that we always slow down enough to be able to hear those messages. So that being present allows you to be able to receive, you know? So that's really powerful. That's really powerful. In terms of your career, as we transition to speak about that, what is really like, what are some projects that you're watching that really are motivating you in this time? What are you working on? Are you writing? How are you utilizing this creatively this season?
Man, that's funny you say that. Remember my boy Thomas I told you about, who actually lives in LA, who I wanted y'all to connect because he's a writer and you're like a dope writer and director. And I feel like y'all two masterminds drive something crazy. But man, so he was in a soap opera that I was in. I was in for a couple of years, and so that's how we got really close.
Okay.
And it's funny because he didn't like writing before, but now that he's writing, he feels like he's tapped into something else, and he's been encouraging me to do the same thing because I've always said I don't want to write, I don't want to direct, I just want to be the actor. I want you to give me the script and then let me go to work. But now it's like the opportunities aren't there as much, so I have to figure out a different way to try to hone my craft. You know, so like just doing shorts. Like I was out in LA for like a week. A couple months ago, doing some filming, just filming some short films out there with Thomas and his crew and stuff. But you know, it makes you think of like Issa Rae, right? Like she wasn't getting anything in what she do. She made it her own, right? So now I think it's to a point now where as creatives, we have to make our own lane because it's just gonna get harder.
Yes.
I feel like.
Yeah. And continue to, you know, speaking of Issa, she talks about networking across. And I've been in rooms where people are quoting that even like most recently, like 2 weeks ago. And you can still see when people don't quite, they're like, yeah, but I want to be next to the person on the panel or the person running the thing. But the reality is our collaborators are often sitting beside us. You know what I mean? They're coming up with us. So what you're speaking to is so real. We do have to create those opportunities with one another and for one another. We have to continue to do that. I mean, that was really centric of Love My Roomie, was that I was an actor out of grad school. I didn't have a reel. And someone that at the time, Artisha Mann Cooper, she had told me, she's like, well, you have this whole portfolio from when you were writing in grad school. So shoot something that you wrote. And that's literally how I started becoming an independent filmmaker. And then I started realizing, I got really excited and freaking energized by being able to provide those opportunities to other creatives, and here we are, right?
And that series was so amazing.
Thank you. One of my favorite parts of it, what'd you say?
So amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. One of my favorite parts is the bonus episode, or the bonus film date for the last episode, not the series finale, which is just me, or just Giselle, but the one where Jamil had the camera and it was like Giselle was drunk and was just oh man, the way that turned out. And like and there were just certain things at Love My Roomie that were just blessings. I mean, because it took 5 years to film it all. So like, even coming back to like, when I was coming back to Ashley and Catherine, like, oh, we're going to film the other part of this scene, but we filmed this scene 2 years ago. Y'all still got the outfits? They had all the same clothes. You had your suit still. It was just like, everybody had the things. And that I know that was like, that's such a small moment in the series, but the execution of remotely directing something that was shot, it was cold, and we were supposed to be shooting it like it was summer, and it was snowing, right? And I'm all the way in California, yeah. And like, you come from Jersey, and it's just like, and he's filming Giselle's POV, and it was just dope. It was really dope.
That was so much fun.
I might put that. I'm gonna drop that clip on Instagram so people can see when we release this episode. Let them see, you working. We are almost at time, believe it or not. I don't know how that happened. I know. But is there any advice that you want to leave, or just anything on your heart that you want to share with our listeners, our viewers, when it comes to supporting their friends, brothers, lovers, whatever, who are single Black fathers? What do you want to see people? How do you want to see people show up in the world?
I would say, man, just be kind to people. I'm gonna tell you, as a man, Black man, and a Black father, I smile every day, but on the inside, I'm not. And no one knows the battles that we fight amongst ourselves every day. Just a simple, hey bro, how you doing? Goes a long way. And to the Black father, not even just Black father, it's the fathers, period. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right to hurt. It's all right to be sad. It's all right to be upset. It's okay. And it will get better. And I tell you this, if you can wake up, tell your kid you love him, if you can go to bed, tell your kid you love him, you had a successful day.
I love that.
That's what I got.
That's so real, because not everybody makes it back home when they leave in the morning. Not everybody wakes up the next morning when they go to bed at night. So what you're saying is so real. If you can still be present, like on the earth with your child, and just be able to say, I love you in the morning, I love you at night, and be able to see them, like that is something to be grateful for, because they still have you here, and the children need their parents, and the children need their fathers.
Oh, one other thing.
Come on,
I recently learned this, and I wanted to share. So, saying no to your kid. A friend of mine, he mentioned that the average kid is told no over 1 million times before they're an adult. So they're wired to already think negatively. So when they want to do something or try to get a certain goal, they're wired to think no. Because it's been said to them over and over and over. Even some stuff like, hey, can I get a snack? No. Or can I, So what I start doing is talk to them about it. So, hey, daddy, can I have this? So instead of me saying no, but okay, well, let's think about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to eat dinner in an hour. So do you think you'll still be able to eat your dinner if you get this? And he'll be like, yeah, I can. All right, we'll see. Because if you don't eat dinner, then you know what happens next time. He'll be like, yes, sir. And same concept. So it's explain to them or talk it out with them as opposed to saying no. Just a little.
I love that.
Little nugget.
Can we apply that to business too? I think so, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that. I'm gonna use that where I can, at this phase in my life. Before we close out, we still have the same segment. I don't know if you remember this from last season, aka 3 years ago. Hurt, heal, joy. What is currently hurting you? What do you want to heal? And what brings you joy? And we touched on all of this.
I would say my heart, pride, and ego are hurt right now. Just overall life period, not just one situation. What do I want to heal, or what am I healed?
Both. Let's whichever way you want to go.
Honestly, I want to be healed from an ego, if that makes sense, and be healed from pride. I would like to rid both of those from my state of mind, because they're not healthy. Mm-hmm. Pride and ego aren't healthy; they can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Especially as a man, we have a ton of it. So I would like to, or at least be able to control it. What's the last one? Hurt, heal,
joy. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Man, you know what? Playing video games with my son.
Ooh, okay.
So there's this thing, I don't know if you saw, I put on my story. So there's always going to be a last time of something, right? And I don't mean death, right? So it's like, when my son was like 4, right, he used to sit on my lap and watch movies. But there was a time when it was the last time that he sat on my lap to watch a movie because he was too old. And so it's like you want to cherish as many moments as you can, because there's going to be a time when he's too old to play video games with his dad. So now I do it as much as I can, because there's going to be a time when I can't get it. So
I love that. What's y'all's video game of choice right now? What are y'all playing?
Man, he likes to play Mario Party, like Mario Kart. That's his thing.
Okay, cool. Is it the throwback that we used to play, or is this like a newer version?
No, this is new.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this is new.
Okay. Is it like immersive VR Mario?
No, it's not VR, but it's like interactive, like the controls and stuff. I ain't gonna lie, we get a little intense.
Are y'all keeping score of who's winning, or you just do it per
absolutely.
game?
100%. Every time. Probably gonna play when I get over here. Probably gonna play.
It's about that time. Bernard, how can people follow you, support you, let the people know? So follow me on Instagram. That's my biggest form of social media. All my names across all the boards the same. Bernard L. White, BernardLWhite. Instagram, TikTok. I guess it's called X now. Yeah, follow me. I'm going to be posting clips when I make them. Still doing my acting thing, still doing the voiceover. So, yeah, shoot me a follow, shoot me a message. Hey, if you got questions about fatherhood, anything, I'm always open to help whoever I can. Love it. Thank you. And y'all, let me know if you can't reach Bernard. If you know me, let me know if you see a fake account. This man, I swear. I personally know no one else but him who has had this many people create fake accounts that are to be him.
A woman who I guess was catfished by someone using my pictures contacted my Miami agent. I don't even know how she got her personal number.
What?
Like, my Miami agent called me in like a frenzy. Like, there's this lady calling. There's someone using your information. I think they hacked your. I'm like,
was the woman trying to warn, or was she like trying to hire you?
she was just trying to. She was like I'm trying to get a hold of Bernard because someone's catfishing me using his pictures, and think he should know about it. I was like, oh my gosh, you called my
good
agent.
Looking out, person, but dang,
you called my agent.
Yeah, your agent. IMDb Pro. That's probably how.
I was like, oh my gosh. I am sorry for all those who get catfished by somebody using my son. Nothing I can do about it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Apologizing in advance. Bernard's really nice, y'all. It's not him, and he apologizes for if you've been heartbroken by someone that was not him using his phone.
Yikes.
Oh my gosh, Bernard, this has been a great, great, great conversation. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for leaning in. I love how real you have kept it. And I know, like I said in the beginning, if I didn't say, I'm saying it now, that this is going to really bless a lot of people, this conversation. Y'all, this has been another episode of Inside Out Podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Do not play games. Make sure you follow on Instagram. We are InsideOut_podcast. Same on Threads. And if you have any questions about the podcast or you want to support, there is a Patreon where you can subscribe and you will get quarterly swag from the podcast, or reach out to me if you are interested in being a guest or know an interesting guest for next season, because this season is slowly coming to a close. Thank you. Peace out. Wait. Before you go, don't forget to like this episode. Give it a thumbs up or a heart, depending on where you're watching or listening, and comment. I will continue the conversation with you in the comments, and be sure to subscribe wherever you watch or listen to Inside Out Podcast. You can catch Inside Out Podcast on YouTube. Of course, you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, or iHeartRadio. And y'all, that is not it. If you really love you some Inside Out Podcast, there is a Patreon community just for you. For only $15 per month, you can join the Patreon as a member. And every 3 months, I will send you some Inside Out Podcast swag, y'all. Yes, straight from the Inside Out Podcast store, just for showing us some love. You can, of course, follow Inside Out Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you for showing us love, and stay tuned for the next episode.